TYCOON Review Print Speaking to the Blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Herald Scotland podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @TYCOONReview, that is @CUEANDREVIEW. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@tunereview.com, that is INFORMATION@CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
This is from the Herald on Wednesday the 21st of June 2023. This is from the news section. The headline reads, Jim McColl, TYCOON condemns SNP ferry fiasco contract cover-up. This article is by Martin Williams. TYCOON Jim McColl has condemned Minister's failure to disclose a suppressed ferry fiasco contract, which he says shows his now defunct shipyard firm could have been allowed to complete 2 lifeline vessels at less than half the current cost. Mr McColl, one of Scotland's wealthiest men, says the failure amounts to a cover-up, as it shows that his Ferguson Marine firm was legally entitled to ask for extra cost to complete the ferries before it went into insolvency, and was subsequently nationalised by the Scottish Government. The contract, he says, crucially states that it was not a fixed price as insisted by state-controlled Caledonian Maritime Assets Limited, CMAL and ministers. Issues over whether it was a fixed price led to CMAL refuting a claim for £67 million over the £97 million proposed price to complete the ferries under Mr McColl's Ferguson Marine. The Scottish Government concluded 2 months before Ferguson Marine went under that there was no legal basis for CMAL to pay more than what it said was a £97 million fixed price. Mr McColl says if the extra cost claim had not been rejected because of the idea that it was a fixed price, the ferries would have been built for just £200 million rather than the near £500 million he believes it will end up being. It has emerged that vital pages have been removed from the previously secret contract to build the ferries before they were finally published by the Scottish Government. They included crucial financial details over the contract, guarantees, payment details, permissible delays and cost liabilities. Out of 59 contract clauses relating to the build for both vessels, just 8 are ever disclosed in any capacity, full or not. In March, it was confirmed that due to persistent design gaps and build errors, the first of the 2 Ferguson Marine vessels, Glen Sannox, is scheduled for autumn 2023 rather than the end of May 2023, with a contract backstop of no later than the end of December 2023. Hull 802 is now not expected to set sail till the autumn of 2024, having already been delayed to the end of March 2024. The contract backstop was stated as being at the end of December 2024. Official financial budget statements revealed that the cost to the taxpayer of the Scottish Government's intervention in Ferguson Marine before and after its nationalisation has now soared to more than £450 million. Mr McColl, who wants the full contract release, says it omits 35 pages of contract terms out of 37, and that a full disclosure would reveal the lie that no more money could be paid to Mr McColl's firm for the ferries. They intentionally suppressed the release of crucial pages which reveal that the contract is not a fixed price contract and that there was a prescribed legal way for CMAL to pay more than the original contract price, said Mr McColl, who added that it was scandalous that there remains a lack of proper scrutiny over the affair. It is appalling it has been withheld and is fundamental to what went wrong. The Scottish Government wanted to shut down a knowledgeable investigation into what went wrong. It was presented as a legal issue, but it was a lie to say that they can't pay more than the contract. Not releasing the full contract details is suppressing information. The details have been blocked because it would have exposed the full problem. Richard Leonard, convener of the Scottish Parliament Public Audit Committee, which is investigating the arrangements to deliver the vessels, is currently seeking an unedited copy of the contract from the Scottish Government Economy Director General Gregor Irwin. The committee believes there is a clear merit in publishing this contract information in full, and asks the Scottish Government to do so in the interest of transparency and to enable scrutiny. Should this not be possible, the committee requests a detailed explanation of the reasons for this approach, says Mr Leonard in a letter to Mr Irwin. It should all be out in the open, said Mr McColl, who rescued the Ferguson Marine out of administration in the summer of 2014 in a move partly brokered by former First Minister Alex Salmond, who kept Entrepreneur abreast of businesses that needed saving. It was under this pretence that the Scottish Government took over the yard. The Scottish Government had stated that sections of published documents relating to Ferguson Marine were redacted due to commercial or legal confidentiality, but Mr McColl says the get-out clause should not be allowed to stand. Ferguson Marine claim for extra costs rose from £17.5 million in July 2017 to £65.8 million in December 2018. The shipyard firm fell into administration in August 2019 because a dispute with CMAL over the spiralling costs and delays in the construction of the ferries could not be resolved. By the end of the year, the Scottish Government brought the shipyard into public ownership. The taxpayer has ended up paying for the price of the ferry fiasco, as ministers constructed a deal to allow Mr McColl's Ferguson Marine to get the contract in the autumn of 2015, which meant it is not being paid for through CMAL's revenues, as it would have if it was still being built by Mr McColl's Ferguson Marine. Ministers provided a £106 million public loan with special provisos to protect CMAL, to protect them to ensure the ferry contract could go through without the normal safeguards in the wake of the ferry procurer's concerns that it was being put at commercial risk if Ferguson Marine became insolvent or failed to deliver on the ships without the full refund guarantees. Ministers sanctioned special financial support for CMAL with a crucial pledge that the ferry owners would not have to repay anything until after the vessels had been delivered. CMAL would normally have been expected to pay off the loan over 25 years using revenue it generates from the fees they get from the lease of the vessels, like Calmat's ferry fleet and harbour access charges. It comes amidst a row over ministers blocking the release for audit scrutiny of the reasoning behind going ahead with the completion of Scotland's ferry fiasco vessels, despite being considered not value for money. MSPs have been told that the value for money analysis by consultants Tenniel that cost the taxpayer £620,000 will not be disclosed because it is feared it will jeopardise the future of nationalised Ferguson Marine. The review said it would be cheaper to scrap Hull 802 and place a new order elsewhere, but the government said continuing the build of Hull 802 was the fastest way of securing a new ship. They have used the same reasoning in blocking the release of a report commissioned by the Scottish Government from consultancy firm First Marine International, FMI, which is punctuating ministers' decision-making on how it deals with Ferguson Marine. Scottish Conservative Shadow Transport Minister Graham Simpson, MSP, said there has been a woeful lack of transparency from the very beginning of this sorry saga, and we have the bizarre situation where the SNP Green Government are blocking an audit report into why ministers chose to ignore the verdict that it would be cheaper to scrap Hull 802 and start from scratch. This murky scandal has cost the Scottish taxpayer hundreds of millions and failed to deliver for islanders. Yet we still don't know why ministers allowed the removal of mandatory financial safeguards, whether Ferguson's received the preferential treatment or the basic terms of the contract. Given the scale of this disaster, that is unacceptable. The SNP must come clean and the public must be given all the facts about how this deal went so badly wrong. A Scottish Government spokesman said, "We will consider this request from the Public Audit Committee in due course." CMAL was contacted by the Herald for comment. That article was by Martin Williams. This is from the Herald on Wednesday the 21st of June 2023. This is from the news section. The headline reads, Nearly 40 jobs go as Glasgow construction supplier collapses. This article is by Scott Wright. A Glasgow-based supplier of specialist access equipment to the construction industry has fallen into liquidation with the loss of nearly 40 jobs. Blair Nimmo and Alistair McAlladin from Interpath Advisory were appointed joint administrators of Adastra Access Limited on June 20th after it succumbed to the effects of labour shortages, rising costs and project delays. Adastra Access provided mast climbing work platforms and suspended cradles to blue-chip construction contractors operating across commercial and residential construction, maintenance and refurbishment of existing buildings, and the construction of maritime transport. The company historically enjoyed a strong order book. However, the administrators noted that over recent years the business had faced significant operational, health and safety and financial challenges, which resulted in trading losses and significant cash flow pressure. Despite a recent injection of funding from the company's shareholder and efforts to safeguard the future of the business, its financial position deteriorated to the extent it was no longer viable. Adastra Access has now ceased to trade and 38 employees have been made redundant, with 2 retained in the short term to assist the administrators. Mr Nimmo, Chief Executive of Interpath Advisory and Joint Administrator, said, "The collapse of Adastra Access Limited is another indicator of the challenges and economic headwinds currently facing the Scottish and UK construction sector, and in particular subcontractors. The directors fought hard to save this business, but it was ultimately impossible to mitigate the impacts of labour shortages, rising costs and delays to customer projects." Mr McAlladin said, "Our priority is to assist those members of staff who have been made redundant, providing them with the information and support they need to claim their statutory entitlements, as well as to support the directors and ultimate owners, for whom this is a very difficult time. We are in contact with various government support agencies, including Partnership Action for Continuing Employment, who are also fully committed to assisting impacted employees." The article was by Scott Wright. This is from the Herald on Wednesday the 21st of June 2023. This is from the news section. The headline reads, "Scottish State Bank could lose £9 million invested in deposit return scheme." This article is by Tom Gordon. Scotland's state-owned investment bank could lose every penny of the £9 million it put into the Scottish Government's disastrous deposit return scheme, it has emerged. Chairman Willie Watt today told MSPs that the Scottish National Investment Bank would suffer significant losses as a result of the scheme's administrator going bust. He said he expected the SNIB to lose more than half of the £9 million it had given Circulatory Scotland since May last year, but it could be 100% of it. "That's the truth," he told the Holyrood's Economy and Fair Work Committee. Mr Watt denied the SNIB had given the Circulatory Scotland the money to help with its start-up costs as part of a deal with the Scottish Government. He also insisted there had been proper due diligence before the money was invested. However, he also said the SNIB had taken comfort from ministerial commitments that the scheme would be going ahead as planned. Al Denholm, the SNIB's new chief executive, also said due diligence on the investment had been impressive, but admitted the SNIB could suffer its first major loss on this venture. The DRS was intended to improve recycling rates for drinks, cans and bottles by charging a refundable 20p deposit on each container, with empties returned to stores. For months, Green Minister Lorna Slater had maintained that, despite business concerns, the DRS would go live in mid-August. But the UK government imposed restrictions on its scope under the Internal Market Act, designed to harmonise trade within the UK, barring it from including glass. That prompted the Scottish Government to delay the DRS until at least late 2025, leaving Circulatory Scotland unable to carry on as industry bodies refused to keep funding it. Circulatory Scotland yesterday went into administration with the loss of up to 60 jobs. It has refused to say how much money if any, will be returned to the SNIB. Green Minister Lorna Slater, who was in charge of the DRS, also failed to say this morning on BBC Radio Scotland how much of the SNIB's money would be lost. She survived a Tory-led no-confidence vote at Holyrood yesterday over their saga. The SNIB, which is wholly owned by Scottish ministers, was set up in 2020 to invest £2 billion of public money in long-term projects helping the transition to net zero. In May 2022, it invested £9 million in Circulatory Scotland, helping to leverage in another £9 million from the Bank of Scotland. By coincidence, Mr Watt and Mr Denham were appearing at the Economy Committee this morning and were quizzed about the impact of Circulatory Scotland going into administration. Mr Watt said he expected more information from the administrators in a few weeks. In terms of the impact on our loan, we don't know exactly what the impact will be, but I think it's fair to say that there will be significant losses on the loan that we have made to Circulatory Scotland, and we will report those losses once we know what they are. That article was by Tom Gordon.
From the Herald Scotland, Thursday the 22nd of June 2023, from the Voices section, Agenda. The Highland Show should be a plant-centred event, by Yvonne Taylor of PETA. Imagine an event that celebrates Scotland's diverse crop and horticultural farmers rather than the sad spectacle of animal exploitation. People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, is calling on the iconic Royal Highland Show to embrace a new identity as the Royal Highland Grow, a plant-centred event that would promote kindness to animals, sustainable agriculture and hard-working Scottish plant-based farmers. Research by the University of Oxford emphasises the urgent need to transform our agricultural system. Growing vegetables, cereals or plant protein in the UK has a lower carbon footprint and requires less land and water than raising and killing animals for food. Animal agriculture is a significant cause of greenhouse gas emissions, biodiversity lost, deforestation and pollution. In the UK, raising animals for food is responsible for around 47% of our methane emissions. Instead of growing crops to feed farmed animals, an inefficient and wasteful process, we could grow food for humans to eat. If everyone ate plant-based, global farmland could be used to reduce by 75%. The Royal Highland Grow could help mitigate the climate catastrophe by embracing vegan farming, or we can all fiddle while the planet burns. Many of the activities at the Royal Highland Show subject animals to stress, fear and mistreatment. More than 6,500 non-consenting animals are transported from all over Scotland and then marched, tied up, pulled around and roughly handled. Terrified sheep are pinned down and shorn as fast as possible. Birds of prey are tethered by their legs. Bulls are paraded around by ropes attached to painful nose rings, and horses are forced to compete in dangerous show jumping. Instead, a fun-filled vegan event with family-friendly activities could offer something for everyone, without the animal suffering. A mushroom-themed scavenger hunt, a vegan haggis eating contest, a turnip beauty pageant, we're not sure about that one either, or a potato sculpting competition are just a few ideas. There are endless ways to celebrate the power of plants. Everyone needs farmers, but farmers don't need to confine animals for meat, eggs or dairy. The Royal Highland Grow could highlight crops such as kelp, strawberries and oats to demonstrate the region's plant-based farming versatility. Celebrating locally produced vegan fare would not only support farmers, but also inspire attendees to explore plant-based eating. This transition will also align with the City of Edinburgh Council's endorsement of the Plant-Based Treaty, which emphasises the importance of vegan farming. PETA urges this year's attendees, and the rest of the Scottish public, to vote Go Vegan and encourage the Royal Highland Show to do the same. After all, the switch to the Royal Highland Grow better fits the fair minds and big hearts of the Scottish people. Let's embrace this positive change and help cultivate a compassionate and sustainable future for all. There's no need to wait. Visit PETA.org.uk peta.org.uk today for a free vegan starter kit. That's peta.org.uk for that free vegan starter kit. And that was an opinion piece by Yvonne Taylor, Vice President of Corporate Projects at the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA. She is based in Edinburgh. From the Herald Scotland, Thursday the 22nd of June 2023. From the Voices section, Business Insight. Crieff Hydro boss spells out harsh reality of Brexit. By Scott Wright, Deputy Business Editor. No matter how much the UK government tries to make a virtue of Brexit, the decision to quit the European Union and so curb the freedom of people from the bloc to live and work on these shores continues to haunt one of Scotland's most important industries. Stephen Leckie, Chairman of the Scottish Tourism Alliance, declared today that staff recruitment continues to represent a serious challenge to the sector, stating that the removal of a significant part workforce as a result of Brexit is curtailing the ability of businesses to operate with a full service, deliver the experiences we would wish to, and invest in our product with the ambition we hold. For anyone who has followed the ups and downs of the Scottish tourism industry in recent years, it will not be the first time they have heard a senior figure from the industry speak out about Brexit and its corrosive effect on its ability to hire the staff it needs. Indeed, only yesterday, Bill Costley, founder of the Ayrshire-based Costley & Costley Hoteliers and a long-standing critic of Brexit, said the industry is plagued by a dearth of talent, telling the Herald, "There are not enough people to go round." Shutting off a vital pipeline of staff for Scottish industries such as tourism, hospitality, agriculture and technology has been a major barrier to growth since the UK formally quit the European Union on January the 31st, 2020. But matters have since been compounded, first by COVID and more recently a cost of doing business crisis, which has seen labour costs push higher still amid the ongoing shortage of staff across the economy. Mr Leckie is correct to call on the UK government today to ease the crisis by staging a meaningful intervention with regard to working visas and immigration policy, stating that the shortage of staff, when combined with continued cost pressures on tourism and hospitality businesses, is undermining the sector's ability to be profitable, enhance the quality of its product, and improve its competitiveness on the world stage. But, as we know by now, it is highly unlikely any action will be taken by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and co., who continue to believe Brexit has been a success despite mounting evidence to the contrary. And that report was by Scott Wright.
Herald Scotland recorded on Thursday 22nd of June 2023. Arts and Entertainments. Royal Conservatoire of Scotland reveals new global ambassadors by Gabriel Mackay, journalist. The Royal Conservatoire of Scotland has revealed a slate of global ambassadors who will fly the flag for the organisation across the world. A Netflix star, a Mercury Prize-nominated musician and one of the UK's leading ballerinas are among those who will promote the work of RCS across the globe. The Iab sisters, who rose to stardom after their debut album premiered at number 1 in the official classical charts, Fergus McCready, one of Europe's most exciting young jazz pianists, and saxophonist and composer Matt Carmichael are among the names in the first ambassador programme. Professor Geoffrey Sharkey, Principal of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, said, "Together with RCS's students and staff, our alumni and associated artists form a powerful and global community of artists, rooted here in Glasgow but with reach and impact across the widest imaginable range of places and spaces. We're delighted to be introducing RCS's programme National and Regional Ambassadors, and are grateful to this group of outstanding artists and practitioners across a range of disciplines for helping us launch this important initiative which will help RCS inform, connect and inspire. This first group of ambassadors, who are graduates or members of the Conservatoire's wider community, will represent programmes and departments within RCS and champion the institution at a regional and national level. Ambassadors will support a variety of areas including recruitment, share information about their experience at RCS and life in Glasgow, be a local point of contact, and assist with events in their locality. Katie Hyam, Alumni Relations Manager at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, said, "We're thrilled to introduce our first group of RCS ambassadors who will support us to amplify and enhance the understanding of RCS across the world, building our connections and developing a dynamic student and alumni community. It's been a joy to meet with each of them and find out more about their experiences during their studies and their journeys beyond. We're looking forward to working together in RCS activity, including recruitment, alumni engagement and events, as well as elevating the work they're doing and celebrating their successes." IOUB sisters Sarah and Laura said, "RCS has played a crucial role in our musical education. The world-class institution nurtured our curiosity from a very young age, both as junior and pre-junior students, as well as later in life at the senior academy. We were able to explore and develop all aspects of music making and utilise the skills which enabled us to unlock our musicianship. We look back fondly at our time and are truly grateful for the opportunities we had and how they have shaped us not only as musicians but as individuals." Degree Programme Ambassadors: multi-instrumental musical duo the IOUB sisters, Strings. Jazz saxophonist Matt Carmichael, jazz (saxophone), pianist Daniel Chobano, keyboard, actor Jeremy Crawford, classical and contemporary text, principal ballet dancer Bethany Kingsley Garner, modern ballet, percussionist David Kerr, timpani and percussion, classical guitarist Samrat Majumdar, guitar and harp, jazz pianist Fergus McCready, jazz (piano), composer Claire Mackenzie, composition, set and costume designer Morven MacLeod, production arts and design, actor Emma Mullen, musical theatre, stage manager Ruby Noble, production technology and management (stage management), lighting designer stroke relighter stroke programmer Josh Brown, production technology and management (lighting), regional and national ambassadors, actor Jeremy Crawford, Toronto, pianist Wilson Chu, Indonesia, violinist JP Radalet, Toronto, musical director Dustin Struhl, Chicago, cellist Kathleen Wolfish, Germany, by Gabriel Mackay.
This is from the Herald on Thursday the 22nd of June 2023, from the news section. Aldi becomes Scotland's third largest food retailer. This article is written by Christy Dorsey. German-owned discounter Aldi has overtaken Morrisons and Sainsbury's for the first time to become Scotland's third largest grocer by volume as the cost of living crisis grinds on. Aldi currently has 104 stores across Scotland, employing approximately 3,500 people, having opened 3 new outlets last year. It is spending £20 million in 2023 to open a further 3 stores north of the border. According to research group Kantar, Aldi had an 11% volume share of the grocery market in Scotland during the 12 weeks to May the 14th, ahead of Sainsbury's on 7.6% and Morrisons on 8.8%. It trailed market leader Tesco on 24% and Asda at 13.8%. This is a momentous moment for Aldi in Scotland as we continue to build our presence within the Scottish market, said Graham Nicholson, Group Buying Director for Scotland. We are committed to offering our customers top quality products at affordable prices, and as the data shows, people are switching to shopping with Aldi in their droves. The record volume market share comes as Aldi prepares to make its 13th appearance at the Royal Highland Show this week. Mr. Nicholson said the group's success in Scotland is testament to its commitment to local sourcing. We are very proud of the strong relationship we have built with our Scottish suppliers, which gives our customers the opportunity to purchase locally sourced high-quality products and support Scottish businesses, he said. The Royal Highland Show is something we look forward to every year, and I am grateful to our network of suppliers who are supporting us at this year's event. I encourage everyone attending the show to visit our marquee and try our Scottish range for themselves, I guarantee they won't be disappointed. That article was written by Christy Dorsey. This is from the Herald on Thursday the 22nd of June 2023, from the news section. Fungus entrepreneurs to create jobs after funding boost. This article is written by Mark Williamson. Edinburgh-based scientists who produce fungi that could provide a big boost to the global reforestation drive have won multi-million-pound backing from international investors. The RhizoCore venture, founded by Toby Parks and David Sartori just 2 years ago, has secured a £3.5 million backing from private equity investors who see big potential in the pellets it has developed to promote tree growth. The mycorrhizal fungus contained in the pellets encourages the flow of nutrients and minerals between the soil and the root systems of trees. RhizoCore reckons the fungus can help to tackle the high mortality rates that impede efforts to promote the growth of forests in support of the net zero drive. Forests can absorb carbon that would otherwise be released into the atmosphere. RhizoCore says high numbers of newly planted trees die due to a lack of soil connectivity. The company says its pellets also vastly improve the drought tolerance of trees. It can increase the growth rate of young trees by 20%. Mr. Parks said the funding round provided validation of the company's product's potential to restore ecosystems around the world. He added, "With the support from our investors, we will be able to sequester gigatons of carbon to protect the future of the Earth for generations to come." The company said it will use the funding to scale up its operations, with the aim of supporting the planting of up to 5 million trees with accompanying fungal pellets in 2025 alone. RhizoCore plans to hire another 5 team members over the next 12 months. It has 10 currently. The funding round was led by Regen Ventures, Collaborative Fund and Grok Ventures. And that article was written by Mark Williamson. This is from the Herald on Thursday the 22nd of June 2023, from the news section. Milan oil firm to buy North Sea operator with Aberdeen base. This article is written by Mark Williamson. Italian oil giant Eni is set to clinch a blockbuster deal to acquire North Sea-focused Neptune Energy, which will underline the appeal of the area. Eni, spelt ENI, is in advanced talks to buy private equity-backed Neptune for around $5 billion, that's £4 billion, according to Bloomberg. The news agency reckons a transaction could be announced this week. Reuters reported earlier this month that Eni was in exclusive talks to buy Neptune. The planned acquisition would allow Eni to become a major player in the North Sea years. The company retreated from the area in the early years of this century. Neptune's portfolio includes the giant Cygnus field, which it says is capable of meeting around 6% of the UK's gas demand. Neptune is preparing to start production from the Seagull oil field east of Aberdeen with BP, following hefty investment. The deal signals that Eni sees potential in the North Sea, despite the furore sparked by the introduction of the windfall tax last year. The Energy Profits Levy was introduced after North Sea producers enjoyed dramatic growth in profits following the surge in oil and gas prices fueled by Russia's war on Ukraine. Neptune grew profits by 80% in 2022 to $3.8 billion before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization and exploration costs, from $2.1 billion in the preceding year. Industry leaders have warned that the introduction of the levy could spark an exodus from the North Sea as firms shift investment overseas. The government made a significant concession to critics this month when it agreed the windfall tax would be scrapped if oil and gas prices fell below set levels. The price floors are well below current levels. Eni's expansion comes as majors look to boost production to capitalise on expected strong demand for oil and gas in the coming years. Shell angered environmental campaigners last week when it said it expected to maintain oil production at current levels until 2030, while supporting the development of low-carbon energy systems. Eni has highlighted the important role it thinks gas can play in support of the net zero drive by reducing reliance on more carbon-intensive fuels such as gas. Greg Aitken, Corporate Research Director at the Wood Mackenzie Energy Consultancy, said, "Neptune looks like a good fit for Eni. Its assets align well with Eni's existing portfolio and strategy." Eni entered the UK North Sea in 1964 and had a significant presence in the area for years. It sold big portfolios to Dana Petroleum in 2002 and JX Nippon in 2012. The group has major exploration and production operations in countries ranging from Kazakhstan to Mozambique. Eni is investing in carbon capture and storage projects in northern England. Neptune has extensive interests in the Norwegian North Sea. It also has assets in the Netherlands, Algeria and Indonesia. The UK accounts for around 11% of production. The company runs its UK North Sea operations from Aberdeen. Neptune was founded in 2015 by former Centrica boss Sam Laidlaw. He won backing from Carlyle and CVC to pursue an acquisition-led growth strategy amid a downturn in the industry. China Investment Corporation acquired a big stake in Neptune in 2018. Bloomberg reported that Eni is set to beat off competition from France's Total Energies to buy Neptune. The agency cited people familiar with the matter, whom it did not name. Neptune declined to comment on the Bloomberg report. A spokesperson for Eni said it had no comment to make on the Bloomberg report. Eni was first reported to be in talks to buy Neptune in November. It is thought those discussions broke down amid a pricing disagreement. That article was written by Mark Williamson.
From the Herald, Monday the 19th of June 2023, from the news section. Fresh ferry chaos with 2 aging CalMac vessels sidelined, by Martin Williams. Ferry services were hit with a new wave of service cancellations after another of CalMac's aging vessels broke down and another is expected to be forced out of action for a 6th month. An engineer problem with 31-year-old MV Loch Tarbet meant sailings were suspended on the ferry to Tobermory on the Isle of Mull on Saturday. Scottish Government-owned CalMac had to arrange a passenger charter to help handle customers while the engine problems were investigated. Spare parts were found and repairs carried out. After repairs and sea trials, the ferry, which had its annual maintenance overhaul in December, was back in action on Sunday morning. It comes as it emerged that the 38-year-old MV Hebridean Isles, which has been hit with the issue since Boxing Day and was totally removed from CalMac firing line in February, is expected to remain out of action in July. CalMac said that it continuing work to repair a pitch propeller means further delays with its return. That has meant that the suspension of sailings between Ardrossan and Campbelltown will now last for at least 3 months. It will remain out of action until July 27th at the earliest. The issues have also meant that the services to and from Lochboydale and South Uist have been suspended for the whole of June. Lord of the Isles, which normally operates the route, is expected to return from its temporary redeployment on the main Islay route when MV Finlagan returns to Islay from its delayed 21-day annual overhaul. It was due to go back into dry dock for another annual maintenance work on March 8th, but there was delayed until June 3rd and it is not expected back till July 1st. It comes as a parliamentary vote on a multi-million-pound fund to compensate islanders hit by disruption was blocked by the SNP. CalMac hope that the Lochboydale's route will reopen on July 1st. It had previously said that MV Hebridean Isles was back in service before the end of June. The South US cancellations, which led to an island demonstration attended by hundreds, will be reviewed. New figures show that there were just 31 days over 15 months where CalMac ferries ran to their scheduled timetable. The figures in response to a Liberal Democrats' questions prompted fresh calls from a party for the Scottish Party to pay compensation to travellers affected by mayhem on ferry routes. They found that ferries were cancelled on 217 days out of 455, and the Lib Dems said more and more ferries were being cancelled for technical reasons, causing the loss of 2,256 sailings across a 15-month period. A ferry user group official said that there was a concern about the length of time MV Hebridean Isles has been out of action for. It really has passed its sell-by date, and every month we find it cannot set sail, he said. Heb Islands has been pretty much out of real action for nearly 7 months now, and there has been concern that it is taking so long to get it back. And all the while, the network struggles to maintain services. This must change. CalMac is in response to the Lib Dems said there were 207 days over the 15-month period where it ran more sailings than were scheduled on its timetable. CalMac chief Robbie Drummond explained that the environmental factors such as adverse weather or tidal conditions were the main reason for ferries to be delayed or cancelled. But he added, "We recognise that disruption to services due to breakdowns and technical faults is extremely challenging for local communities, and we apologise to those affected when it occurs. The first 6 months of 2023 has been particularly challenging as vessels have required more work in dry dock than planned." He said CalMac is working hard to prevent unscheduled maintenance caused by technical issues, with record sums being invested in the fleet. Spending on maintenance set to top £43 million this year compared to £20 million in 2017. A Transport Scotland spokesperson said, "While operational decisions regarding the Clyde and Hebrides ferry services lie with CalMac, we recognise this issue is not just about transport performance, it's about delivering the confidence needed to sustain local populations. The Scottish Government has invested more than £2 billion in our ferry services since 2007, and we have outlined plans to invest about £700 million in a 5-year plan to improve ferry infrastructure. Since May 2021, we have bought and deployed an additional vessel in MV Loch Freasa, chartered the MV Arrow and MV Alfred, commissioned 2 new vessels for Islay, progressed investment in an essential harbour infrastructure, and now we are delivering a further 2 new Islay-class vessels. In March, it was confirmed that due to persistent design gaps and build errors, the first 2 Lifeline vessels being built at nationalised Ferguson Marine is scheduled for autumn 2023 rather than the end of May 2023, with contract backstop of no later than the end of December 2023. A second vessel, Hull 802, is now not expected to set sail till autumn of 2024, having already been delayed to the end of March 2024. The contract backstop was stated as being the end of December 2024. They were originally due to sail in mid-2018, with one initial to serve Arran and the other to serve the Sky Triangle routes to North Uist and Harris, but they are well over 5 years late. It suggests that the cost of delivery may quadruple compared to the original £97 million contract cost. And that article was by Martin Williams.
From the Herald, Monday, 26th of June, 2023, Sports section. Andy Murray thinks about retirement but will not be ending his career just yet. By Eleanor Crooks and Prudence Wade. Andy Murray revealed he has a plan for how he would like to retire from tennis, but reassured fans it won't be for a while yet. The 2-time Wimbledon champion turned 36 in May and is committed to defy expectations of what can be achieved with a metal hip. While Novak Djokovic is as dominant as ever, Murray has seen one of his other big rivals, Roger Federer, bow out, and Rafael Nadal announced his intentions to call it a day after a final tilt next year. Murray had a taste of retirement during his battle to recover from his hip problems, and he told PA News Agency, "That's an experience I went through where I didn't know if I was going to be able to play again. So I certainly don't want to put myself in that position. I want to finish my career on the tennis court. It's something I have an idea about. When it is, I would like to stop and a plan for that, but certainly nothing immediate." Murray does not see himself playing a farewell tour like Nadal intends to do, and admired the way Federer bowed out in emotional scenes at the Laver Cup last autumn. "It was a great way for him to finish," said the Scot. "I don't think there's a special or particular or a right way of doing it, just as long as the individual's happy with that, and hopefully you get the chance to do that on a tennis court rather than it being through injury or anything else." Murray still has ambitions in the court, including what he hopes can be another strong run at Wimbledon. He looks set to fall just short of his aim of being seated at the All England club, so he'll be keeping his fingers crossed for a kind draw. With Emma Raducanu and Jack Draper injured, Cameron Norrie and Dan Evans are the only other direct British entrants into the main singles draws this year, although 10 players have been given wild cards. Negative headlines around the absence of British women at the French Open have been mitigated to an extent by success on the grass, with Katie Boulter winning the WTA title in Nottingham to return to the top 100. Is it disappointing? It's always a difficult one to know what British tennis should be expecting or what would be considered success, Murray said. Because in the last 10 years, I've won some Grand Slams, and Emma Raducanu obviously won a Grand Slam on the women's side. That hadn't been the case for, 70 years on the men's side, and I think it was 40 years on the women's side. So that's a big improvement. People will want more players competing at the top of the game. I would obviously like to see more, and hopefully that will change in the next few years. That article was by Eleanor Crooks and Prudence Wade. From the Herald, Monday, 26th of June, 2023, Sports section. Former Scotland and Aberdeen manager Craig Brown dies, aged 82. By David Irvine, sports writer. Former Scotland boss Craig Brown has passed away, aged 82. The legendary manager sadly died on Monday, having been in hospital through illness. A statement from his family read, "Craig died peacefully today after a short illness in University Hospital Ayr, surrounded by close family members. The family wished to express their deep appreciation of the outstanding care and attention provided by hospital staff and the countless messages of support and sympathy from friends and colleagues. At this particularly sad time, the family now requests that their privacy is respected during the grieving process." Glasgow-born Brown holds the title of longest-serving Scotland manager, having led the national team to Euro 1996 and the 1998 World Cup in a 9-year spell. Brown started in the management at Clyde, where he remained between 1977 and 1986, before spending 7 years at the helm of the Scotland under-21 side. Following his time in charge of the national team, Brown went on to manage Preston North End, Motherwell and Aberdeen. Brown was appointed Commander of the Order of the British Empire, CBE, in the 1999 Birthday Honours List for his services to football. He was inducted into the Scottish Football Hall of Fame in 2010. News of Brown's passing prompted an outpouring of grief, with the Scottish football scene united in mourning over the much-loved and hugely respected manager. A Scotland national team tribute read, "A true Scotland legend. Our thoughts are with Craig's loved ones at this sad time." Former club Clyde paid tribute to Brown, posting on social media, "Everyone at Clyde is incredibly saddened to hear about the passing of our former manager Craig Brown." Craig took charge of 409 games from 1977 to 1986 and won Second Division Championship twice with the Bully Wee. Our thoughts are with Craig's family and friends at this sad time. Motherwell FC added, "We are deeply saddened to learn of the passing of former manager Craig Brown. The thoughts and condolences of everyone at Motherwell are with Craig's family and close friends at this very sad time." An Aberdeen tribute read, "Everyone at Aberdeen FC is heartbroken by the loss of our beloved former manager, director and club ambassador, Craig Brown. A dear friend to us all, Craig will be sorely missed, and our love and condolences are with his family at this terrible sad time." Aberdeen chairman Dave Cormack added, "Since 2010, Craig performed the roles of manager, director and ambassador at Aberdeen FC. Craig was a friend to all of us at the club and a mentor and confidant to many. He was one of those rare individuals who was not only effective at what he did, but universally loved by all who got to know him. A gentleman who loved his family, friends and football. Personally, I'll always be grateful for the support and encouragement he gave me as chairman, and I'll miss his legendary stories that made us all laugh." Sincere condolences to his family and friends from everyone at Aberdeen FC. And Stuart Milne, who hired Brown as manager in 2010, said, "Craig was a very special individual. He always had time for people, and if there was any way in which he could help them, inevitably he was there with an abundance of support and guidance. I very much enjoyed working with him, first as a manager, then as a board member, and in recent years as an ambassador for the club. One thing is for certain, Aberdeen Football Club could not have had a better ambassador than Craig. During our time working together, he became a close friend. He always had a story or two to tell, and I often became the butt of some of these stories, but he always meant it in a friendly way, I think. Craig was a successful manager of Scotland at a number of top clubs, and he will be remembered in a very positive light by thousands. He'll be sadly missed by many, and I feel grateful that he played such an important part in my life." Rangers, where Brown began his professional career, posted, "Rangers are saddened to hear of the death of former player and Scotland manager Craig Brown at the age of 82. Best known for his time in charge of the Scotland national team from 1993 to 2001, Brown's playing career began at Ibrox. The thoughts of everyone at Rangers are with his family at this difficult time." A Falkirk statement added, "Everyone at Falkirk FC is deeply saddened to hear of the passing of former Falkirk player and Scottish football legend Craig Brown. All our thoughts are with Craig's family and friends at this difficult time." A Celtic social media post read, "Everyone at Celtic FC is deeply saddened to hear of the passing of former Scotland manager Craig Brown. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends at this time. Rest in peace, Craig." A Heart statement read, "Everyone at Heart of Midlothian Football Club is deeply saddened to learn of the passing of former Scotland manager Craig Brown. Our thoughts are with Craig's family, friends and colleagues at this very sad time." Dundee FC, where Brown won the Scottish League title, stated, "Everyone at the club are extremely saddened to learn of the passing of former player Craig Brown, aged 82. The thoughts of everyone at the Kilmac Stadium are with Craig's family and friends at this very sad time." Scottish FA President Mike Mulroney said, "Words cannot do justice to the impact Craig Brown has had on Scottish football, and on behalf of the Scottish FA and his friends and former colleagues at Hampden Park, I send our deepest condolences to his family." As Scotland's men's national team coach, he took us to Euro 96 in England, a tournament that only recently he described as one he and the players simply could not allow the fans to miss out on. He also took us to the World Cup in 1998, where we opened the tournament against Brazil with the iconic kilt walk pre-match. But he was much more than that. He was meticulous in his coaching, preparation and passionate in his support of Scottish football. The greatest tribute that can be paid to his professional capabilities is the respect in which he was held by his peers, who also happened to be our all-time great coaches, among them Jock Stein, Sir Alex Ferguson, Walter Smith, Jim McLean and Andy Roxburgh. Craig deserves his place in the pantheon of great coaches. He will be missed, but never forgotten, by those who had the pleasure of his company, or by the fans and players who shared in his success as Scotland manager. And Scotland national team boss Steve Clarke added, "Craig led the way in bringing sustained qualification to the men's national team, first as assistant to Andy Roxburgh and then in his own right. He was a student of the game, and I am proud to say that I followed in his footsteps by taking the Scotland team back to a major tournament." The thoughts of the players and my background staff go to Craig's family and friends at this difficult time. First Minister Humza Yousaf said, "A towering figure of the Scottish game, Craig Brown and the Scotland team he managed gave us so many good memories over the years. You'd be hard-pressed to find a man who loved Scotland as passionately as he did. My thoughts are with his family and friends at this sad time. I last saw him in March at my uncle's retirement from Ayr Racecourse. He was in fine form, full of laughs and anecdotes from his life in football. He was an outstanding manager of the Scotland national team and a truly lovely man. Brown began his footballing career as a youth player at Kilmarnock Amateurs before going professional at Rangers in 1957. He had loan spells at Coltness United and Dundee before moving to Dens Park permanently in 1961. Brown also counts Falkirk in his former clubs before moving into management, with his career cruelly cut short through knee injuries. That article was by David Irvine. From the Herald, Sunday, 25th of June, 2023, Sports section. Rise of Scottish sprinters shows kids a different route to success, by Susan Eaglestaff, sports writer. Over the past decade, it has become accepted that Scotland is a middle and long distance nation, with Laura Muir, Jake Whiteman, Josh Kerr, Ailish McColgan, Callum Hawkins and Andy Butchart stealing the headlines. You would be forgiven for forgetting that distances shorter than 800 metres even exist in athletics. It's changed from the days of the 1970s and 80s when Alan Wells was winning Olympic 100 metres gold. The men's sprint relay team was competing with and in many cases beating the world's best. And on the women's side, Sandra Whittaker reached Olympic level and for decades was peerless in the female Scottish sprinting scene. We had reached a point where those sprinting achievements seemed a lifetime ago. Middle distance success was breeding middle distance success, and sprinters were an endangered species in contemporary Scottish track and field. Yet almost unnoticed, there's been a sea change. Over the past few years, Scottish sprinters, and by that I mean 100 metres and 200 metre runners, have gone from having a similar status to black rhinos to now being almost everywhere you look. It started with Beth Dobbin. The English-based Scot began her charge in 2018 by becoming British 200 metre champion and breaking the 34-year-old Scottish record. She forced her way into consideration for GB selection, becoming a regular in British teams at major championships before becoming an Olympian in 2021. It's impossible to judge whether Dublin's success was a catalyst for further Scottish sprinting success or it was coincidental, but regardless, she breached the dam and since then, sprinters have flowed through. Dublin is now joined by a host of her compatriots in being able to say they are top-class sprinters. On the female side, there are a handful who are running times haven't been seen for decades. Alicia Rees is Scotland's fastest ever woman over 100 metres, last season breaking the Scottish record that had stood for almost half a century. Alison Bell is now the third fastest over 100, while in the 200, Dublin pops the all-time ranking. She lies ahead of Georgia Adam. The women's 4x100 metre relay team of Rebecca Matheson, Rees, Sarah Malone and Tala Spence last year ran 4 of the 5 fastest times ever by a Scottish quartet. And on the men's side, things are equally encouraging. The 100 metre specialist, Adam Thomas, is the fastest Scottish man this century, as well as Scottish record holder indoors over 60 metres. And in the 200 metres, US-based Adam Clayton, who this weekend has won his first GB vest at the European Games, is the fastest Scot indoors by a country mile, and the fastest for 25 years outdoors. It means that going into the British Championships in a fortnight, which doubles as the trials for the World Championships this summer, there will be considerable interest in which sprinters can join the almost certain picks, like Whiteman, Muir, Kerr and McColgan. The surge of Scottish sprinters is a credit to a sport that has developed a hugely effective conveyor belt of talent in recent years. Things have not admittedly returned to the halcyon days when Wales was winning Olympic silverware. In reality, global sprinting has moved on to such an extent that we are unlikely to ever have a Scot to compete with the fastest men or women on the planet anymore. But we now have a sizable group of Scottish sprinters who can compete regularly and impressively on the world stage. The significance of this, particularly when we already have a band of world-class middle-distance runners, may not be immediately obvious. Scotland is already classed as one of the strongest athletics nations internationally when population is taken into account. So does it really matter in which events the strength lies? Well, actually it does. There will be many kids who watch athletics in this country who will never become middle distance runners, whether it's because of their talent, their physiology or their mentality. But over the past few years, This wave of Scottish sprinters has shown there are plenty of other paths to follow. We need that. It needs to be clear to kids coming through the sport that Scotland is not only a nation that produces endurance athletics, but it's also one that can produce sprinters. The last few years have done this. That's hugely significant and important when it comes to continuing to develop athletics in the coming years and decades. And another thing, there are few sportswomen who are quite as remarkable as Venus Williams. At 43, most athletes are long retired, but Williams has shown that although a long way from the level which saw her top the world rankings, she still has the motivation to chase a fluffy yellow ball around a tennis court. In many ways, her decision to continue her career into her 40s is unfathomable. She may never earn another penny in her life. Her career prize money alone is well over $40 million. And with 7 Grand Slam titles, she's already considered one of the best female tennis players. Yet she still has the desire to compete. She's been awarded a wild card for Wimbledon, which starts a week tomorrow. We should enjoy watching her while we still have the chance, because retirement is surely coming soon. That article was by Susan Eaglestaff.
The Herald on the 27th of June and the Arts and Ents section. Scotland's Home of the Year final, BBC One Scotland by Alison Rowett. Scotland's Home for the Year aficionados do not suffer your average common or garden nightmares. Not for them, teeth falling out, a suddenly remembered exam in the morning, or being chased by an angry badger. No, the sight of that chills their blood to Chablis temperature is Anna Campbell-Jones in a floaty dress. If you see the interior designer wafting up the driveway of Glasgow's house for an art lover in some gorgeous gelato-coloured number, it means you are in the final of Shotty. This is it, the moment your abode goes fireplace to fireplace, kitchen island to kitchen island, with other people's pride and joy to win the coveted red and black plaque. The 2023 finalists were nervous but chuffed to be there. When you're quite a house groupie, it's nice to be among your own kind, said the lady from Skye. We'll come back to that kind later. For now, there were decisions to be made. Like other episodes, the final is just half an hour long. For all that, the judges go out of their way to balance praise with criticism. The final sift can be swift and brutal. It was about 50% too big, was the verdict on One Home. Rip that band-aid off, said another judge as the 6 became the final 3. The Old Train House in Edinburgh, Kirkley Mansion Glasgow and Loch Bay on Skye. Quite a quirky selection, isn't it, said Anna. While fellow judges Banjo Beale and Michael Angus fought Lochabee's corner to the end, it was eventually ruled not quite up to the same level of uniqueness as the other 2. So here we were. Edinburgh versus Glasgow is a rivalry as old as time. West Coast gallousness meets East Coast chic. Trainspotting invited River City to a fight after school. The You'll Have Your Tea Brigade up against Relax, You're at Your Auntie's squad. And the winner was that other place. In classic switcheroo style, the judging seemed to be going Glasgow's way, only for the Old Train House to emerge the last-minute winner. For my 2 cents, Edinburgh edged it because the building was reclaimed from near rubble, but so was Glasgow, and so seemed greener. Plus Glasgow, being a grand mansion flat, decorated in classical style, was too much like a previous winner, also Glasgow. It could be a controversial decision, but the judges have ruled. Ultimately, the Old Train House was new and different, and in the interiors game that beats old and familiar. More importantly, it was a lovely place. As one of its owners said of the win, it just goes to show it's Home of the Year, not House of the Year. Exactly. The show hails originally from Denmark, and the format has proved so popular other parts of the UK are joining the party. Lechta Wales Home of the Year. However, I like to think Scotland has brought a certain Caledonian warmth to the proceedings. The winning properties may be as pristine as show houses on the day the judges visit, but they still have to look like homes people and children and dogs and Granny Susan can enjoy living in or visiting. My neighbour on these pages, Doug Marr, said on Monday that he'd rather like Shotty even though the presenters don't half talk a load of cobblers. I do apologise, judges. As punishment, we'll send him to John Lewis's soft furnishings department for re-education. The point, as Doug says, is that Shotty is escapism, and we could all do with some of that at the moment. So congratulations, Edinburgh, and never mind Glasgow. We'll always have Banksy. On BBC iPlayer and repeated Thursday, June 29, 7:30pm. And that was by Alison Rowett.
That concludes this week's edition of the Herald Scotland podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at TYCOON Review and tell your friends about our service.